Again, my name is Zabriel Rivers, and I am a Gullah Geechie storyteller. And we are descendants of West Africa, mostly the West African country Sierra Leone. And long ago there lived a man who was very well respected in his village. And he lived there with his 4 sons and his wife, who was pregnant with what would soon become the 5th child. Early one morning, he woke up and he packed his weapons to go hunting for food to nyam up. And in Gullah Geechee, nyam up means to eat. And when he did that, he called for his 4 sons and he said, "Kumbaya chillun, take on a foot in your hand, we going hunting for food to nyam up." And the sons came running, and the wife interrupted him and said, "Po mammy needy chillun your help in the rice field. Me can't do things like a dish and that no more." So the father agreed to let the 4 boys stay behind and help their mother. And they stood in the yard and watched as the father walked past the garden, through the rice fields, and disappear off into the woods. Well, the 4 boys did everything their mother asked them to do. They dug holes, they helped her in the rice fields, and they helped her prepare supper. And as she passed each son their bowl, the first son said, "Father in kumbaya tall." And kumbaya means come by here. And the mother responded and she said, "Father sure in kumbaya tall." But they didn't think much of it. And they nammed up their food, they cleaned up, and they went to bed. And the next day, the same thing happened. They did all their chores. And when it was time to eat supper, another son said, "Father still didn't come make your tall." And the mother said, "That's a little strange," but they didn't think much of it. And they nammed up their food, they cleaned up, and they went to bed. And that happened day after day, time after time, until eventually they had totally forgot about their father. So the big day finally came, and the mother gave birth to that baby. And it was a baby. No. It was a baby boy. And the village stepped in and loved that baby. And that baby grew. He cried a lot. And eventually he crawled and he took his first steps one day. And then one day he uttered his first words. And his first words were, "Where is me fatter?" And that is what prompted the mother to send the 4 older boys to go find their father. So her and the baby stood in the yard and watched as the 4 older boys took the same path their father took, through the garden, through the rice fields, and disappeared off into the woods. Well, when they got to the woods, they were walking through and they immediately got lost. It had been so long since their father left, they didn't know which way to go. So they all became overcome with sadness until the first son confessed a secret. He told his brothers, "Look at this in your nose. Me know how to smell any trail from here to yonder." And that's what he did. He started sniffing that trail. He would find where his father went. He was like, "Come on, let's go." And then he did that a few times and he came upon a clearing. And in that clearing were a pile of bones and the bag and weapons they knew belonged to their father. So when he turned around, his brothers came behind him. They were sad. They were too late. Their dad was dead. Until the second son confessed his secret. And he said, "Look at this in your hand. Me know how to find any bones scattered around and put them back together." And that's what he did. He got on his hands and his knees and he took his time and attached each bone back together in its right place. And when he was done, he had a complete skeleton. But when he turned around to look at his brothers, they were still sad because it was just a skeleton. Until the third brother confessed his secret. And he said, "Me know how to wrap any body, any raw skeleton laying on the ground, back in the blood and vein in his skin." So he looked over his father's skeleton and he began to speak what they call conjure words. And when he did, His dad's skeleton began to be wrapped with vein and blood, his tissue, his skin, and laying there in front of them were their sleeping father. And when he turned around, dusted his hands off, his brothers were still sad because it was just a dead man laying there. And then the fourth brother stood up and said, no time better than this. And he shared his secret. And he said, me know how to blow the bread into any man and watch it wake up. And that's what he did. He took a deep breath and blew into his father's nose, and his father woke up. And his father hugged his boys, and he said, "Una father too proud. Una took a foot in the hand and come from way upon yonder to bring me home." And they walked back to the village, and the people there were working, and they looked up and they said, "Oh, I see 4 boys." And someone said, "No, it's 5." And they said, "Well, they must have found their father." So when they got there, everyone embraced, and the village was cheering, and everyone was happy. And the father looked around at everyone, and he raised his hand, and the whole village got quiet. And he told them, in 3 days' time, there will be a party. And he instructed the women to go out and set up for that party. And then he instructed some men to go out and kill the fattest cow they could find. And he instructed them, when they do that, to bring him the cow's tail. And that's what they did. They brought him the cow's tail, and he stripped the skin off, leaving just a little hair on the tail. And he washed it and cured it, and he wrapped it in the finest jewels and diamonds and emeralds he could find. And then he attached it to a rod. And when he was done, it was the most beautiful cowtail switch that looked like it belonged to someone of royalty. And he carried that stick around the village every day, leading to their party. Well, the night of the party finally came, and everyone in the village was drinking and dancing and celebrating and having a good time. And he just stood and he watched. And before the party was over, he came and he grabbed that cow's tail switch and he held it up. And everyone got quiet. And he told them, "This is your enemy hand named Cow Tail Switch. And it grind upon his son who did the most for bring me way from down yonder." And the 4 boys, they heard him and they ran to the front of the party and they started pushing and fighting. And the oldest son said, "Go on to me, because I didn't want to find a trail. Ain't nobody can sniff a trail and find. We've been lost." And the next son said, "No, it going to me, because I didn't want to put the bone together. Who can do things like that thing?" And the next son said, "Well, it been me to put the skin and wrap on me, was just laying it dead." And the last son said, "No, it going to me, because I didn't want bloody bread." And they fought and pushed and pushed. And that father raised that cowtail switch again, and they got quiet. And he said, "I have made my decision. The cowtail switch is going to the baby." Because it was the baby remembering him that prompted them to go find him in the first place. And he told everyone at that party to leave with this: one is not truly dead until he is forgotten. End of story.